Good evening, everyone. I've got notes because this is a proper science show and I wanted to make sure I got everything really accurate. So don't worry because we've got that covered. So I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the big burning question that's at the forefront of scientific debate today, right? That question is, of course, is endometriosis sexy? So because this is a proper scientific survey, like I say, I'm going to start by defining my terms. Endometriosis, if you don't know, is a bit like if you imagine a really fancy hotel room, right? And you've got the big soft bed with the fluffy duvet, the good sheets, right? Not the shit ones, because we booked a nice hotel. You've got the towel dressing gowns, you've got the tiny little bottles of shampoo that you're going to take with you, even though they're totally pointless, because they're free. And you're in that room, and endometriosis is like a toddler hopped up on Haribo who enters with a giant bucket of red paint. It's really messy. You will never get it clean, no matter how hard you try. And it's distressingly sticky. So we're -1 on the sexiness scale straight off the bat, because honestly, having a temperamental toddler wreck my insides and glue my organs together doesn't do it for me. But I have a long-term and deeply held belief that I cannot be anything less than perfect. And so we need to start finding some positives really quickly, because otherwise I'm going to just turn into an emotional wreck. So we get +1 on our sexiness scale because endometriosis is very mysterious. Can I get an ooh? Right, so even though it affects 10% of menstruating people, I didn't hear about it once in 15 years of an all-girls school's PSHE sessions, and I paid attention. So, +1, because mystery is always good. It's also extra mysterious because it takes approximately 80 million years to get a diagnosis, and you can only get one by having an operation. And this is not just any operation, this is one where you get probed by a robot. So again, extra sexy points. I feel like the experience was a little missold because, when they told me I was gonna have a vibrating robot inside me for 2 hours, I didn't think it was gonna be in a hole that wasn't already there. That was disappointing. On the minus side, and we do have to acknowledge there are some minuses, it is incurable. And incurable diseases can be really well represented by the arts. I'm an English background, so I know all about the consumptive virgins fainting away in their beds and just how desirable they were. I've heard of Lord Byron. But an incurable disease that makes you bloated and sore and irritable isn't most people's idea of sexy. So unfortunately, I am docking a point for that. But I don't think that's really endometriosis' fault. It doesn't get a say in what gets researched and what doesn't. And the fact is that this is the big point in sexiness in this question generally, because it's not considered sexy by research standards. Sexy by research standards means you get funded. Sexy by research standards means you get papers published and you get to actually do shit. So period stuff, not sexy. Cancer, very sexy. That is a sentence you did not think I'd be saying. But good news, there has actually been some endometriosis research published recently. It was in Nature, so that's very sexy. That's if your parents were gonna have heard of a scientific publication, arguably it'd be that one. They haven't, but if they were, And the best bit about this research is that it conclusively proves that not only is endometriosis sexy, but that I'm really sexy. So what they did was they took a number of really brave men and they showed them, let's just give a moment for these men. They showed them pictures of women in bikinis and they asked them the age-old question, hot or not? So, for the sake of science, they rated the bikini pictures, and then the scientists took that data away, and they, did actual maths to work out their averages, and they found that the women who had endometriosis were more attractive than the ones who didn't, which conclusively proves that I am hotter than 90% of menstruating people. So I'm going to give that plus 50 on the sexiness scale right there. Now, obviously, like, they could have spent that time and money working towards a cure, or, you know, something worthwhile. But cures are quite sexy, and that would have been really nice. But here we run into a marketing issue, and like, marketing is very concerned with the sexiness of things. And this is why I have a boner to pick with Viagra. Viagra presents a really big, hard challenge in my life. Because the thing is, when it was in his infancy and it was just starting to look at what it might be used for, they thought it could be an endometriosis cure or like something that would help with it. But then it had this really big, obvious side effect that was just like waving at all of the researchers. And everyone went, you know what? Period stuff, not sexy enough to share a medication with something that is going to be advertised to men who definitely aren't victimized by heteronormative patriarchy. Like, they're all super secure in their masculinity, but we can't have that. So it's just going to be the boner drug. And that's why, you know, so we're a bit short on cures at the moment, but I do have a solution. I mentioned that I have a background in English, and that is actually a background in really old stuff, like the 18th century. And they had something that I think we could bring back to fix this problem. So they had something called the celestial bed. And the celestial bed basically cured all the sex things. So it was a giant bed that was on a podium, and you could pass a current through it. And so people would come and have sex on the bed and get electrocuted while they were doing it. And this made everything better. And this is because the 18th century thought that electricity was God on Earth. And so God would flow through the couple, through the penis, and that is how the magic would happen. So I kind of think that those people who are too insecure to share a medication with something that also deals with like a menstruation issue might just be arrogant enough to believe that God could intercede on their penis's behalf. And so I am kind of concluding this scientific survey by concluding that, yes, endometriosis is sexy, I'm sexier, and we should electrocute all of the dicks. Thank you.
Please give it up one more time for Zoë McGee.